Hello, everyone. Now we have the 5 o'clock. We have the 5 o'clock advisory of Hurricane Dorian, and is ubicated at 26.6 north, 77.3 west. Sustained winds of 185 miles per hour, moving west of 5. So it slowed down from the last bulletin at 2 p.m. And we have a storm surge warning from Latana to the Volusia Brevard County borderline. So what is right now Central Florida and South Florida? They are, as we speak, in a crisis mode right now. And for this, we are going to use two resources.
Panic, but just to make sure everybody is safe.
And we also have evacuations in Martin County, as well as Brevard County, St. Lucie County, and in St. Johns County. These are mandatory evacuations for those places: Martin, Brevard, St. Lucie, and St. Johns County. Also, the governor is wanting to make sure that people are on high alert and they do not put their guard down. This is a storm that is certainly still threatening the coastline, the eastern coastline of Florida. But also, there is a fear that possibly the storm could trek downward, could trek southward. But as Brian and Betty have both warned us, it is a possibility, but not likely. The models are showing that that is not going to happen. I think we have about 60 seconds here. We're going to check in with Brian and Betty very quickly before we go to the top of the hour. Apparently, the 6 o'clock advisory has just come down. Brian.
All right, it's just an update, actually, and you know what? Look at this, Betty. The numbers haven't changed. There's a little detail in this. It's still moving west, only 5 miles an hour, but now it's due west. So we noted that it looked like it was,
Right.
kind of leaning a little south, and so it kind of confirms that. But no changes in the cone. Of course, we don't get that with the update. But anyway, we just wanted to get that in because I know we're going to wrap it all up for you here in just a couple minutes.
We have about 30 seconds left before we go to a very quick break, then we go to the top of the hour.
That's right. So we just, again, wanted to reiterate everything that is happening in both Dade and Broward and Palm Beach counties and all the tropical storm warnings and watches. And again, Betty and Brian, they just told you the new update at 6 o'clock, so you'll have that in the next few minutes. So for now, we're going to take a quick break.
So it's right now 5:57. We have two sources, one from South Florida, but soon we're gonna switch it to NBC6, that they have their 6 o'clock news. And of course, we have West 2 News. That's the Orlando based affiliate that we always use. We could say that Hurricane Dorian has been the most unpredictable storm of the season. And now look at this. The cone of uncertainty that includes, this is into Friday. It includes Delaware, where our fellow contributor Andy Randomness has contacts there, and even the southern part of New Jersey. So the question will be, could Jersey receive their first hurricane, their first tropical storm of the season? We will never know. So up to now, let's see what we have. We have that Miami-Dade County Public Schools will be closed on Tuesday. The Florida International University will not have classes on Tuesday. Let's tune into the latest.
Could come ashore as Dorian keeps moving.
And right now, the Bahamas are getting battered by Dorian. Category 5 force winds are doing a lot of damage there. The strength of the storm seen here. Cell phone video showing a gas station canopy on the verge of being ripped off.
Widespread damage is already being seen. Piles of debris are now littering several neighborhoods. Our crew in the Bahamas reported earlier that when the winds were at their worst, people could be heard screaming for help.
And many homes are now...
Let's tune into NBC6.
As this incredible storm makes its way through.
So right now, let's go over to Chief Meteorologist John Morales for the very latest on dangerous Hurricane Dorian. John.
Extremely dangerous and sadly really, really pounding Great Abaco and the surrounding islands of the Abacos. Went right close to Marsh Harbor, right over it actually. And that discussion that you all had with Ryan Phillips just recently regarding these people that have been venturing outside to record the damage of the hurricane. Obviously, they've been doing it inside the eye of the hurricane, and the problem is you get this backside over here, which is actually perhaps even worse in terms of wind speed and the storm surge, and people can really lose their lives that way. Now, that is the satellite presentation, which is obviously extremely impressive, a monstrous hurricane in terms of the intensity, not necessarily in terms of the cloud shield and how wide it is. It's not one of the biggest hurricanes I've ever seen, certainly far from it. It's one of the smallest ones I've ever seen. But at the same time, it's just so wound up and so compact right there at the center that we've got this presentation on our First Alert Doppler 6000. It's been within range much of the day for our radar, which has a tremendous amount of range, and we can plainly see the eye wall around the hurricane. And perhaps the backside of the eye wall looks a little thinner to you, but remember, that's further away and being blocked off to a degree by the front side of the eye wall. So, there might be just a little bit of attenuation, meaning attenuation of our signal, meaning that it doesn't see this side of it as well as this side. But soon enough, it will come into view, and I can also add that that is just a very dangerous side of the hurricane too. One more thing to note on this image, the center of the eye of the hurricane is actually now departing Great Abaco. Right? So it's heading into this channel between Great Abaco and the eastern end of Grand Bahama, and it's expected to basically go right into Grand Bahama and cross right over the entire island, and then maybe when it gets to this area over here, it's going to start to stall and just kind of sit here and then eventually turn off towards the northwest. But that won't be happening until tomorrow about this time. It's going to take a long time for it to get from here to around here and then make that turn. A very, very long time, and that's why we're all stressed out about this system, even it being so far away. But again, here's the core of the hurricane, still quite distant from our area. The core of the hurricane is expected to stay away from our area. The core of the hurricane is even expected to stay away from the Palm Beach area. All right? But there are some worst case scenarios that you need to be prepared for. And what I did during this half hour that I was off air is that I prepared that graphic for you. First and foremost, let me just reset you with the 5 p.m., actually the 6 p.m. advisory, because now that it's within radar range, we're getting hourly updates. Not a full advisory, just an update on the position and the strength. What immediately jumps out at me here, in addition to the incredible wind speeds, is that just as forecast, this hurricane is slowing down. Now it's only moving at 5 miles per hour towards the west. Totally expected, all part of the plan here. The hurricane's going to stall, it's going to wait for that upper level dip in the jet stream, and that is going to open the door for it to turn towards the north. But for now, still moving west, stalling as it reaches or departs Abaco and enters Grand Bahama, and that'll happen later tonight. Let me show you the latest projection from the National Hurricane Center here, and you can see that the cone of concern, which never was over the metro area of Broward or Dade at any time today, despite some earlier confusion about that subject this morning. It's been over Palm Beach, and now really it's starting to shrink a little bit over the Palm Beach County area. This line used to be right here near Boca earlier in the day, and now it's further towards the north. You can also see that the slow motion is going to take 24 hours, well, a little bit less than 24 hours for it to get to the west end of Grand Bahama. And then we have this position here, which is Tuesday afternoon, a little bit weaker, making the turn towards the north. Why category 4 instead of 5? Because even though it would be over or near the Gulf Stream, and that's warm water, upper level wind shear linked to that dip in the jet stream would start to affect it, and it should start to lose strength as it departs the Bahamas and makes that north turn. As I told you with the 5 p.m. advisory, high level of confidence that this hurricane is going to turn northwest, but only medium confidence as to how close does it get to the coast as it makes that turn. And that's why in Palm Beach County there is some concern, and there's a hurricane warning in effect for you now just to the north of Palm Beach County, starting at the Jupiter Inlet into Martin, St. Lucie counties, and points north. That is where the hurricane warning is in effect. South of there, we've got a hurricane watch in effect for Palm Beach County, and we have a tropical storm watch in effect for Broward at this hour. Here's the rest of the forecast track. Moving parallel to the Florida coast, that makes this a very difficult forecast in terms of the impacts upon coastal communities in the state of Florida. This could be very similar to Matthew in 2016, 3 years ago, that caused all kinds of damage, particularly from a storm surge, and yes, winds as well, along the coast, because it had a similar path and it was right hugging that coastline as it moved towards the north. Now, here's that graphic I want to show you. This is the reasonable worst-case scenario. If the forecast from the National Hurricane Center is wrong, in either or intensity, track, or the radius of winds, this is what you prepare for, because this is the worst-case scenario. This is what you prepare for, and if it does not come to fruition, you celebrate. But as you can see, this includes the risk of winds up to 110 miles per hour as far south as Palm Beach County, all the way south to Delray Beach. And then that risk extends north all the way to Daytona Beach. Further inland, places like Orlando, you've got winds to tropical storm force if the forecast goes awry. That's the only way Orlando is going to see this type of wind, okay? That's what this graphic means. It's produced by the National Weather Service. I'm a big fan of this graphic because it helps me communicate to you what ifs. What if the forecast is wrong? What if it moves closer to the coast than they're forecasting? This is what would happen in that worst case scenario, okay? According to the National Weather Service. So you can see parts of Broward County in a worst case scenario would have winds sustained 58 to 73 miles per hour. That does not include southwestern Metro Broward or southern Metro Broward, so Hollywood, not you. Miramar, not you. Western Pembroke Pines, not you. And up here, from Fort Lauderdale proper all the way up to Deerfield Beach, inland into Parkland, you folks could possibly see these type of winds. But south of there, your worst case scenario is more like this: a low-end tropical storm with winds of 39 to 57 miles per hour. That's what you would expect on the southern end of this. So what I'm telling folks in Broward is, well, actually, this is an old graphic. So I think I'm just going to leave it here, and we'll fix this graphic. So this was produced 2 days ago. So we'll get you updated information in just a second.
All right, John. Thank you so much.
So we just want to give you, bring you up to speed with some of the closures that you need to keep in mind. Obviously, tomorrow is a holiday. It's Labor Day, so schools were already closed. But for Tuesday, Broward County Public Schools and district offices will be closed. And in Miami-Dade County Public Schools, there will be closed, just as Palm Beach County Public Schools will be closed. It's also worth noting that FIU is also expected to be closed on Tuesday.
And again, Alberto Cavallo, when he spoke just a little while ago, saying that, you know, you can't put kids out there if you don't exactly know what the weather conditions are going to be. And buses
Okay,
on the road, and kids
that's
walking to
for
school.
South Florida. Now we're gonna
That's
go
kids staying
to
home and,
Central
County shelters
Florida.
open today, already drawing some evacuees. And right now, power.
You know, I think everybody's just trying to be extra careful because nobody wants to put children at risk, and they know that also, you know, once you start closing schools in Broward, then that has a ripple effect in Miami-Dade County. So even though Miami-Dade County is not under any sort of watch or warning, officials here in Miami-Dade County.
Now let's go to Central Florida, where I have interest also. In particular, Orange County.
Excommunicado in effect in 5.
Left and evacuated as well, so we really didn't have too much of a choice, but they've made it pretty easy here. The Red Cross volunteers are doing a really good job to help us out.
Orange County's mayor and emergency managers stressed at this afternoon news conference there will be security at all shelters, and they'll handle as many as they can while urging people to bring only what you need as space is limited.
We do not provide cots in those shelters for an individual. However, you are welcome to bring a single width cot. You only have about a 2 by 10 foot floor space.
And again, we are live outside the Orange County Convention Center where they are staging these trucks, mutual aid through the Orlando Utilities Commission. Coming up all new at 10 and 11 tonight, I'll talk with some of these out-of-state line crews about their mission and how dedicated they are to their job of restoring electricity around here. And I'll give you one more quick note from that news conference in Orange County today. They noted that because the storm had slowed down, that they will have parks open tomorrow, Labor Day, till about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Live in Orange County, Greg Fox, WESH 2 News.
We have shelter information broken down county by county over on WESH.com. Just search shelters to pull up our list for Central Florida, and the same goes for our WESH 2 News app.
Still to come, Hurricane Dorian's impact at Orlando International and help for local first responders.
We'll also check in with Chief Meteorologist Tony Manalfi and meteorologist Eric Burris for how this storm will affect our area. This is
Sophie opened up a wormhole through.
You know, let's go back to South Florida. Okay, South Florida's commercial break. Okay, let's go to Twitter land. Let's go to Twitter land. To see what we have in Twitter land. This is a look from the eye of Hurricane Dorian.
Introducing the Unlimited Cashback Bank Account by Green Dot Bank. With one of the richest cashback Visa debit cards in America, Green Dot pays you an unlimited 3% cashback bonus when you make online and in-app.
And the photo is the view from a U.S. Force Hurricane Hunter plane as it flies through Hurricane Dorian.
Comes with a Green Dot Bank savings account that pays a 3% annual interest rate. Open your account at greendot.com and get a $50 cashback bonus. Spend like normal. Save up like crazy. Hurry, offer ends soon.
And also Dorian has been affecting the Bahamas. And of course is going to affect South Florida, Central Florida, even Jacksonville.
Hurricane Dorian made landfall in the
But the
Bahamas
Florida
after 2:03
Panhandle.
this afternoon is a Category 5 storm. This new video shows the conditions in the Abaco Islands right before
Okay, we
landfall.
have here
Storm's
Palm
already
Beach
caused
County issue
extensive
mandatory
damage.
evacuation for people living in zones A and B starting at 1 p.m. Oh, that started already.
The center says that is now tied for the strongest Atlantic hurricane landfall on record with the 1935 Labor Day hurricane.
Orlando International Airport has reversed course and now plans to stay open tomorrow.
Leaders had previously said that all flights after 2 o'clock Monday morning would be canceled. If you're supposed to be flying in the next few days, keep checking in with your airline for flight information and schedules. The airport says 21 arrivals and 75 departures were canceled today.
And we have so many other important resources for you at WESH.com. County by county, you can find everything from sandbags to emergency services and the latest forecast. It's also on the WESH 2 News app, which you can download for free. Our team of meteorologists has been working around the clock tracking Hurricane Dorian.
Chief Meteorologist Tony Manalfi and Meteorologist Eric Burris are in the Weather Center with the very latest on this storm, guys.
I'll tell you what, Eric, still a very catastrophic 185-mile-an-hour hurricane, and I can't wait till we get the new information from the hurricane hunters that are getting close to getting back in there.
They found winds of 200 miles per hour. That is such a rare territory. It's almost frightening just to see on a computer screen.
And not the gusts. I mean, that's radar indicated. It's pretty low to the surface there. Yeah, you're right. Hey, let's take a look now at the latest cone and the latest update. Remember, we are getting hourly updates now, but we will get the new cone at 11 o'clock. I just want to make sure everybody's clear on that. You can see it is slowing down. That's the big piece of information we were hoping to see this afternoon. As it moves west, it is slowing down. We want it to slow down because there's a cold front that's in the forecast that is hopefully going to keep this one and the core of the strongest winds just offshore. That's why we don't want you to let your guard down. We want you to keep watching this one with us. One of the things I like to do, you saw us do this with Matthew and Irma, is underlay the storm, the satellite perspective, and put the cone on top of it to make sure it is where it needs to be. And so far, so good in that department. We take a look at that eye. Very discernible there, just to the north of Marsh Harbor. This island is never going to be the same again. Once this one is done going through there, it's slowing down. A long duration, incredible wind event right there, and it is moving off towards the west, and it's about 145 miles in West Palm Beach, and I got to believe the folks seeing this right now are saying, this has got to turn. I mean, that's what I would be saying if I was down there. Look at the eye wall, really showing up nicely now on the Miami radar. Granted, it's a good ways away, but it's being picked up. Most of the computer models today in very good agreement, staying just offshore, but any wobble, any change to the west means a significant
We have breaking news, and we have that Governor Ron DeSantis is suspected to give an update regarding Hurricane Dorian at about 6:30.
Force winds, 6 p.m. Tuesday evening, right on into Wednesday. Near hurricane force winds along the coast. Again, Euro's a little bit more offshore in comparison to the American GFS model, and then it pulls on out by Thursday. Let's take a look now at the European winds. 43 miles an hour at 5 a.m. on Tuesday. Not quite tropical storm force winds yet in Orlando. 2 p.m. at about 36. Then as we jump ahead now to 8 p.m. Tuesday, winds at 50 miles an hour along the coast. 30 in Orlando. Finally getting up to tropical storm force winds by about Wednesday at 5 a.m. here in town. Jumping up to near 60 miles an hour at New Smyrna Beach by the time we get you on into Wednesday afternoon. And then finally by Wednesday night on into Thursday, the core of the roughest winds do stay offshore. Now, the American GFS model is a tad closer, and because of that, we look at the potential for hurricane force winds there by about 6 o'clock on Tuesday, darting the coast, staying along the coast of Volusia and Flagler County before lifting to the north and the east by the time we get into Wednesday evening. So just a little bit quicker with more on those current impacts here locally over the next couple of days. Here's meteorologist Eric Burris.
All right, so with that latest information, Tony, I wanted to look into the history books, and the first storm system that really rings a bell is not that long ago. It was Hurricane Matthew. Take a look. What we're going to do here is we're going to start with the current track, okay, of Dorian. And then from there, we're going to overlay. In blue, that's Matthew's path. In yellow, many of us longtime Central Floridians will remember Floyd gave us a scare a few years ago. Notice this storm system is almost over that exact path if it behaves as Matthew did a few years ago. Floyd was well further offshore. So when we start thinking about impacts to our coastal areas, I do want you to think as to what Matthew did for us. Remember, there's a lot of damage up and down the I-95 corridor, not to mention the erosion and storm surge issues we had up in Flagler County especially. So keep that in mind, all right? So Monday through Wednesday, we're talking about hurricane conditions possible. It just depends on that exact forecast path. And then, of course, there's the rainfall concerns as well with these tropical downpours moving in. Across the metro, tropical storm force winds, just as Tony said, for Orange, Seminole, and Osceola counties. Out west, tropical storm force gusts, I think, are possible as these feeder bands kind of wrap through. But it's going to be a lesser impact for our I-75 communities. But with that wraparound flow, we do now have a storm surge advisory posted, a warning for Brevard County, and a storm surge watch issued for Volusia County. So what are we thinking for right now? We're thinking at the moment 4 to 7 foot storm surge. This is kind of the first time that we felt confident in terms of issuing these types of forecasts. Up until this point, there was just way too many questions. And remember, this is going to be subject to change depending if it comes a little closer or a little bit further, all right? At this point, we're already watching quick passing little showers, but as the storm system gets closer, we're going to be getting into more feeder bands, which are really heavy torrential rains. Take a look at Futurecast. It's saying late tomorrow morning that first feeder band will try to move in, and then from there, of course, Monday evening into Tuesday is when we'll start to see conditions deteriorate and start to see some rougher weather moving through town. So your Labor Day, 60% chance of those heavy tropical downpours from time to time. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, they're highlighted in red there. We call those first alert weather days, meaning those are days where weather is going to be challenging to say the least as we track Dorian. But the good news, Tony, looking ahead to Thursday, Friday, and the weekend, Dorian will hopefully be in the old rear view mirror.
Yeah, what typically happens is storms pull out, you get some beautiful weather, and you get some very hot and humid weather, and I think that's going to be the case once we get past Dorian. A complete update on Dorian again coming up here in just a couple more minutes, and of course, again, we're on the air back at 7 o'clock. See you in just a couple minutes.
Right now, let's go to South Florida. See, we're going to be constantly changing from Central Florida, South Florida. And our fellow contributor Matt Camper will continue this the coverage tonight. But going back to Twitter world, In about 7 minutes from now, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis will give an update regarding Hurricane Dorian. So we are going to listen to that.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us as we basically keep you up to date with everything you need to know about Hurricane Dorian.
Yeah, and people all across the eastern seaboard and particularly Florida have been getting ready for this system. Let's go to Adrian Kriskow. He's live in Lake Worth with the very latest on what's happening there. Adrian.
Yes, hi, good afternoon. Just like Steve Litz, I'm in a Zone A evacuation zone, specifically Orange Grove Mobile Home Park. And throughout the entire day, people have been boarding up their homes, prepping up for the hurricane. I'd like my photog to please show you what this mobile home park is looking like right now. Throughout the entire day, as I said, people have been finishing up securing their homes after an mandatory evacuation has been ordered on behalf of the Palm Beach County authorities. And right now I want to speak with one of the residents that lives here in this mobile home park. Ma'am, if you're so kind, come with us. What's your name, please?
I'm Billy Galvez.
Ms. Galvez, will you be evacuating?
Yes, I will be evacuating. We've already gotten our trailer tied down and plywood up, and most of the families here will either be going with friends or to shelters.
Okay, do you know exactly which is a shelter that you're assigned to?
No, I don't, because I'm going over to a friend's house, so I don't need to know that.
Okay, thank you so very much, and please stay safe.
Thank you.
Well, throughout the day, as I was saying, everyone finishing up, securing their homes. Energy that is being sensed is completely different than the energy we were sensing yesterday when we had the good news that perhaps Hurricane Dorian was moving away, but not the case today. We are expected to feel those hurricane winds within the next couple of hours, and this is one of the mobile home parks that should be completely vacant from tonight on. A lot of people are saying that they might hunker down in their homes while the storm passes through. That is not a good idea. The recommendation is to do exactly as authorities say. There are 7 shelters in Palm Beach County. One of them is for special needs. Another one is for pets. Everything can be found in our webpage. Please, you've got to do what authorities say. You cannot risk it. You've got to evacuate, and the time is now. Live from Lake Worth, I'm Adrian Kriskow, NBC6 News.
Adrian, thank you so much. And that's good to hear that folks in those mobile home structures are getting out, because that can be dangerous because they just don't have the strength to withstand, the storm winds and everything. So good thing that they are getting out.
Yeah, I think the bottom line for tonight is that if you're in an evacuation zone, heed the warnings, make sure you follow what authorities are saying. Also keep a close eye on the forecast here. Just to recap, there's a hurricane watch in Palm Beach County, that's correct?
That's correct.
A tropical storm warning in Palm Beach County, and then Broward County, we are in a tropical storm watch.
Correct. And Miami-Dade has nothing, and the Florida Keys has nothing.
All right, and you're going to stay on top of this for us, correct?
I think so.
All right, we know so.
Just wondering.
Well, we will definitely be here, bring you any information that you need to know as the evening progresses. And of course, we will also start some special coverage at 10 o'clock tonight.
So we hope you'll join us. We'll see you then. Have a great evening, and Nightly News is coming your way in just a few minutes.
great deals on America's first and only hybrid minivan at the Chrysler Labor Day sales event. Current owners or lessees of competitive hybrid or electric vehicles get $4,500 total cash allowance on the purchase of a 2018 Pacifica Hybrid. The Chrysler Labor Day sales event.
Tonight, Hurricane Dorian's catastrophic blow. Our team inside the eye of one of the most powerful storms ever recorded. 185-mile-per-hour winds destroying parts of the Bahamas. People there pleading for help.
Everyone pray for us.
Homes destroyed, massive power outages, entire communities underwater. The harrowing rescues our reporter just witnessed. And the race to get out. Dorian now heading towards Florida. Mandatory evacuations underway in some parts. States of emergency up through North Carolina. Rob Marciano on why the devastation is just getting started. And the other breaking headline, the deadly highway rampage, the chaos and terror as bullets rang out from a speeding car. At least 7 people killed across more than a dozen crime scenes. Tonight, the hunt for a motive. Growing more violent, protesters tossing bricks and firebombs. Police in Hong Kong firing back with tear gas, then storming the subway, attacking them underground. Hotel poison scare, the hazmat incident that sickened 9 people and left 1 person dead. Was it a suicide? Also tonight, actor Kevin Hart and his vintage car careening off a treacherous road. The car destroyed. How did he survive? And sharing the spotlight, Naomi Osaka defeating 15-year-old phenom Coco Gauff. The emotional moment that surprised everyone.
From ABC News, this is ABC World News Tonight.
And good evening. Thanks for joining us on this Sunday. I'm Tom Yamas, and we begin with the relentless threat from Hurricane Dorian, growing over the past 24 hours to a monster Category 5 storm, striking the Bahamas with 185-mile-per-hour winds and now heading towards the U.S. mainland. As we come on, take a look at this hurricane. It's still churning over parts of the Bahamas. Dorian slamming ashore in the northern Bahamas, the most powerful storm ever recorded to strike the island nation. The rain and storm surge flooding streets, surrounding homes, trapping people inside. The first images of the damage just coming in. Power and communications are gone. Tonight, Hurricane Dorian is now heading towards the U.S. mainland, but its impact in the Bahamas is revealing just how dangerous this storm can be. ABC's Marcus Moore is there in Abaco, Bahamas, reporting from inside the eye of the hurricane.
Tonight, Hurricane Dorian tearing across parts of the Bahamas. The powerful Category 5 storm pummeling the Abaco Islands with relentless rain and that damaging wind.
You can see what it's doing here, and off in the distance, those waves crashing against the pier. Officials fear that this storm will leave catastrophic damage here in this part of the islands.
The eye of the storm passing right through the Abaco Islands. Intense gusts continuing. The wind so strong we had to take cover inside.
I don't know how well you can see it, but I want you to listen to the wind and the howl of the wind as it goes by. Look at that. Those are the wind gusts that we have seen and that officials have warned about.
The whole roof came off.
Roofs ripped away and the power knocked out.
We've seen large pieces of debris flying in the other direction. All right, and it looks like we've just lost power. Not sure if we're still on.
Sorry about that, folks. I have my partner on the phone. So it is 6:32.
Downtown Orlando, 24-mile-an-hour wind gusts. We jump up to Tuesday and Wednesday, the core of the strongest winds coming on in, the strongest winds that we had with the Euro, near 75 miles an hour back towards New Smyrna Beach. And then gradually, as we get into Wednesday morning, everything will lift up towards the north and the east. Palm Coast right now, we're talking about wind gusts in the forecast with the GFS at 3:30 on Wednesday afternoon, 55 miles an hour. Even in Orlando, a little bit lower than tropical storm force winds. Then you shoot to the north and west back towards the Villages and Ocala. As you're farther to the north, the winds will be just a little bit stronger. And then finally, by the time we get to Wednesday night,
so we're going to stay between
Thursday,
West 2 News and ABC 10 in Miami for now.
Begin to come back down. Temperatures outside are running in the mid-80s. Don't be surprised as the winds pick up and showers move in that we're going to have some gusty winds. But the real story arrives, as Eric said, as we get you on into Monday evening, Tuesday and Wednesday. As we continue to track Dorian, you're going to see the rain begin to increase, the wind increasing, and then in the wake of Dorian, as we get you on into Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, life gets back to normal.
Next 48 hours, so critical. Tony, thanks. Meantime, President Donald Trump visited FEMA headquarters for a hurricane update just as Dorian was upgraded to a Category 5 storm.
The president says it was something that he was surprised to see.
I've seen some Category 4s. You don't even see them that much, but a Category 5 is something that I don't know that I've ever even heard the term, other than I know it's there. That's the ultimate, and that's what we have, unfortunately.
President Trump says the federal government stands ready to assist in all readiness and recovery response operations.
President Trump commented on the hurricane this afternoon, saying, quote, "Pray for the people in the Bahamas being hit like never before." West 2 News is here to help you prepare for any conditions that we may face. As we continue to track Hurricane Dorian, we have several resources for you on the West 2 News app to turn on the alerts to make sure that you know right away about any changes in the forecast, any clothings, or other important emergency information.
And there is This afternoon, the city tweeted it's waiving parking fees starting at noon tomorrow at 5 parking garages. The garages include City Commons, Jefferson Street, Central Boulevard, Orange County Administration, and the Library Garage. Trailers, boats, and vehicles taller than 6 feet 7 inches are not allowed.
Hurricane Dorian made landfall in the Bahamas just after noon today. The National Hurricane Center saying it was packing maximum sustained winds of 185
So let's continue on Twitterland to see what is the latest regarding
NBC's Morgan Chesky reports
the trends on Hurricane Dorian.
Nassau, Bahamas, just outside the emergency management headquarters, where the Prime Minister just finished speaking, opening by saying this is the saddest day he's ever had to address.
Victor Okendo joining us now live from Delray, Florida. Dorian having a major impact on travel. And Victor, I know tonight you have new information on the plans for several major airports.
That's right, Tom. Palm Beach International shutting down tomorrow ahead of the storm. Orlando International staying open for the time being, but saying they'll be monitoring Hurricane Dorian. The best advice for passengers right now, double check with your airline. Tom?
Victor Okendo live for us tonight. Victor, thank you. And as Victor reported, among the deadliest threats from this hurricane is the powerful storm surge that could be coming. Take a look at this drone shot in Melbourne Beach, Florida, showing just how close the water is to the roads there. ABC senior meteorologist Rob Marciano is right there tracking the approaching storm. Rob, good evening.
Good evening, Tom. We're already starting to feel the impacts of Dorian in the way of wind and some waves as it lashes the Bahamas less than 200 miles from this coastline. The strongest hurricane in this part of the world to make landfall since 1935. Look at it on the satellite pictures, still impacting it, and it has
Let's see if
unfortunately. So we have hurricane warnings that have been posted for the central Florida coastline from Jupiter through Cape Canaveral. We expect hurricane conditions.
Urging Floridians to pay attention to Dorian.
There's good teams there all across the state, but you have to take care of yourself first. And so if you decide not to evacuate when they tell you to, or if you wait, then that's really the risk.
And again, he told residents not to wait to get ready and to be sure to watch for updates on your local news.
All right, so if you're a super weather geek, and most of us are, you might have noticed just a little while ago in the storm track, there's a little tiny wobble that took place in the storm when it first approached one of the Bahama Islands, Grand Abaco, I believe that's the one, but you could see it sort of bump up and then back down into its projected path. And I mean, if you're a nerd, you kind of do a double take and take a deep breath and hope that just doesn't be a game changer.
Meteorologist Eric Burst now standing by. So Eric, fill us in about this and just obviously the path, the track, but just how powerful that this storm really is.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the satellite imagery, it's really awe-inspiring. And Jim, what you're looking at, and this is what's so incredible about these tropical systems, is it almost tried to thread the needle again, going up and around. It wasn't able to quite make that turn, but it just tried to go up and around as best as it could. What's going to be interesting is as it approaches Grand Bahama Island over the next couple of hours, is it able to pass just to the north of the island? And that's one of those things that I can recall a few years ago, Chief Meteorologist Tony Manolfi and I watching Matthew do very similar things, these little wobbles trying to avoid land masses, because land does not bode well for tropical systems. it does not bode well, of course, for the land masses either. Let's talk about that local impacts. As this were to pass very close to our shoreline, Hurricane Center's forecasts only keep it about 50 miles or so off of our coastline. So when we talk about local impacts, one of those could be heavy rainfall. That's completely independent from hurricane force winds and damage and debris, but adds insult to injury, no doubt about it. 4 to 5 inches, certainly a possibility. So here's that forecast cone, and one of the things we like to do is kind of try and compare this storm to other storms, and it was just brought to my attention. If you go back to the 1970s, you could even talk about Hurricane David as well. I'll add this to this graphic here in a little bit, but Dorian in red. So there's the path that the Hurricane Center's forecasting, at least right now, and that's going to change to the left or to the right. Matthew back in 2016 was this blue line, and you notice they're not that far apart. It's also important to note that our coastal communities think they got hit by Matthew. They think they got a direct impact from a major hurricane several years ago. That did not happen. The storm stayed off the shoreline. So when we're thinking about impacts, you need to at least take your mind back to Matthew and say, what happened then? I can count so many roofs that were just completely ripped apart. The shingles, the ceramic tiles pulled away, things like that. Floyd back in 99 gave us a scare, but you can see that's on the right-hand side of the forecast cone. So really and truly, any situation is possible. So when we talk about coastal communities, such as Brevard, Volusia, and Flagler counties, Daytona Beach, New Smyrna Beach, back over to Titusville, Merritt Island, out near Port Canaveral, Patrick Air Force Base, Melbourne Beach, Grant Valcaria, Mico, Painters Hill. We're also talking about places up around Ormond Beach. Hurricane conditions are certainly possible over the next couple of days. For you, it's going to really be starting Monday in Brevard County, and then that worst of the weather kind of starts moving up to the north as well. Again, hurricane force winds are 74 miles per hour. This could look very similar to Hurricane Matthew. When we talk about the interior, we're talking about Osceola, Orange, and Seminole counties. That's the metro. That's the tourist district. And that's, of course, all of the communities through Seminole County as well. Tropical storm force conditions possible in those feeder bands as it moves through. And the track is subject to change. For us in our western areas, living along the turnpike from Claremont through Leesburg out to Wildwood, Ocala, Rutland, Bushnell, we're talking about tropical storm gusts possible in some of these feeder bands. The big question, of course, where exactly does this storm system go? The problem, Tony, Amy, Kyle, myself, we don't know. We can only give you the best hypothesis, but from there, it's just waiting and watching the storm system.
Eric, thanks. Hurricane Dorian's current track does put it dangerously close to the Carolinas.
People along the coast, they are bracing for the storm and hoping it's not a repeat of last year's Hurricane Florence. Casey Cunningham continues our coverage from Carolina Beach, North Carolina.
It's windy, but peaceful as families soak up the last weekend of the summer here on Carolina Beach.
We just vacationing.
But everyone has their eyes.
And that's North Carolina. That'll be, let's say, between now and Thursday.
While most of the people who were out here on the beach are vacationing and will be leaving, it's the people who live out here on
But remember, folks, where the M or the H is not necessarily where the storm will go. Because as you see, you have a cone of uncertainty. And as of right now, if we zoom in, we see that places like Broward County, Miami-Dade County are out of the cone. But half, let's say 3/4 of Palm Beach County, are in that cone of uncertainty.
That was Casey Cunningham reporting. Now, because of the approaching hurricane, all beaches along the coast do have a high risk of rip currents today.
Yeah, we're staying on a little bit longer because we're expecting an
But
update
if
from Governor Ron
we
DeSantis on the
extend,
state's preparations in advance of Hurricane Dorian, and when that happens, we will bring that to you live. Now, Governor DeSantis is staying on
they
top
say
of the
coastal
storms from
Virginia
every
could
angle
see the
today, right from
impact
Tallahassee.
of
And this
Delaware,
afternoon, he announced that
even
tolls are
South
suspended on
Jersey.
several roadways in order to reduce traffic.
But
And that
anything
includes the
could
Florida
change
Turnpike, the
between
Beach Line,
now
417,
and
and the
Friday,
429. Again, the
because
governor
we're
is expected to
barely
speak in just a moment for an
beginning the
update, and we'll
week.
bring that to you. Work along I-4 will stop for the next few days to prepare for the hurricane. Items that are light enough to be lifted by strong winds, like barrels, cones, and barricades, they have been collected. Construction materials and equipment are also being stored away.
But we're going to
Highway
continue here
as
at
safe as possible
Twitter.
using the roadways when the weather conditions allow it. Now, they're also working to keep drainage along the road intact, even in bad weather.
Please do so. We're going to do everything we can leading up to the storm to make sure that all lanes are open so people can safely get where they need to go if they are evacuating through this area.
Drainage ponds have been pumped down so they can hold more water, and cranes are being lowered as the storm gets closer.
And the clock is really starting to run out as far as getting all of your storm supplies. It has been a mad dash for those items all weekend long. Propane and generators have been some of the tougher things to find, but stores have been doing their best to restock on the essentials, things like water, flashlights, and batteries.
It's really hard to predict where these things land, but we're trying to shift product as demand shifts.
And some of the more basic things you should have already: a gallon of water per person per day. That's for drinking, cooking, and bathing, at least 3 days worth of non-perishable food, a battery-powered radio, a flashlight, and extra batteries, and a first aid kit if you don't already have one.
And we have shelter information broken down by county over on WESH.com. Just search shelters to pull up our list for Central Florida, and the same goes for our WESH 2 News app. And as you form your hurricane plans, you cannot forget about your pets.
Seminole County Animal Services stopped by WESH 2 to talk about your options. WESH 2's Adrian Whitsett has more on what you need to know.
When you think about your hurricane preps, don't forget to care for your pets. If you're getting ready to board up and stay inside your home, that's where they should stay.
Keep your pets inside. When you have to take your dogs out, have them out on a leash, and make sure you have enough supplies for them. Include the water that you're getting for your family, for your dogs and cats, too.
That could mean up to 7 days worth of water and food. Once the storm is clear, it doesn't necessarily mean that the area around your home will be. You want to make sure your fencing is secure, or keep your
And we have a service suspension alert regarding Central Florida area, and it is about Sunrail. Sunrail is going to be completely suspended from Tuesday to so in small words, it's going to be suspended the entire week.
Consider microchipping your furry friends.
Microchip is a permanent form of identification, and a shelter is required to scan every animal
For more
that comes
updates, you can visit sunrail.com, or you can receive text alerts sending the word Sunrail to 31996,
Just after 5 o'clock
or
this afternoon,
download the
parts of Central
Sunrail
Florida coast
app.
were included in a hurricane warning, and the designations are important not only to alert people who live in the danger zone that they may need to get out of the way, but they trigger different mechanisms statewide and nationally so that emergency responders and other people can be put into position sooner.
Chief Meteorologist Tony Manolfi joining us now with an update on Dorian. And Tony, too, we've started to see some of that video come out of the Bahamas, and it's just devastating to see the
And we have for Link's bus access link will we provide already scheduled trips for Sunday, starting Monday only. Life sustaining medical trips will be provided to future notice. Links fixed routes, neighborhood links in Limewell services will be provided as scheduled till future notice.
Let's get you back to the latest track now.
If sustained winds go above 35 miles per hour, the links transit system was shut down for safety reasons.
We get these updates literally
Road
now
Rangers will
every
patrol
hour as we approach
I-4
the
until
storms
Central
through the
Florida
United
reaches
States, whether it's
sustained
Florida,
winds of
the
35 miles per
Carolinas,
hour.
the state of Texas, anywhere in the Gulf
Which
of
at the time
Mexico.
they will blow off the street and
185-mile-an-hour
return when
winds.
deemed
The
safe.
hurricane hunters were in there a short
Police
time ago. They
staff
actually
will
found winds
monitor
over
the efforts
200
of the
miles an
storm
hour.
and will
That tells
keep the
us gusts could be
community
as
up
high
to
as
date as the
120,
storm
maybe
passes.
125
Here
miles. Now,
via
so to the west tonight,
goldlinks.com,
continue to slowly
facebook.com
slow down and then
/goldlinks,
gradually begin to make that turn. Just wanted to show you
links
now
bus
the
Orlando
information from a short time
or
ago. Front one, look at those winds, 203 miles an hour. We got a new Air Force plane getting ready to go into that eye. It's going to be very interesting to see if the islands in the northern Bahamas if they have done any kind of slowing down of the intensity, so to speak, because of that storm, because it's getting closer inland.
We're
Tropical
trying
storm watches
to
have been issued now
obtain
for Polk, Osceola, Orange, Seminole, Inland, Volusia County, and all of Lake County. That means tropical storm force winds are expected within 48 hours. Hurricane warnings means that you can have hurricane force winds in 36 hours. Brevard County, that is you. We get up towards Volusia County. There's your watch. It means hurricane force winds are possible in 48 hours. Storm surge advisories. There you go. Flagler County. And then we got storm surge warnings for Titusville, Melbourne, and all of Brevard County. We are expecting now the potential here for 4 to 7 inches, 4 to 7 feet, of surge there as the storm makes its closest approach. Now, why the turn? Why is it going to be slowing down? Notice this cold front coming through the Ohio Valley. That will continue to build southeastward. As this slows down, we're hoping that it's going to be able to pull it just offshore of Florida to allow for it to curl away with time, and that is going to be the thinking with all the late information that we're getting from all of the models, not just the Euro and the GFS. Any wobble to the west could mean a significant change in the amount of wind, how much stronger or how much weaker they could potentially get. A jog to the west, stronger. A jog to the east, lower. That would be a better case scenario for us. There's the eye, right exactly where it should be, according to the forecast cone. We take a look now at the satellite, and you can see the eye winds at 185 miles an hour, roughly about 145 miles from the coast there near West Palm Beach. Jim, Merritt, back to you.
All right, let's get to the governor in Tallahassee.
Keep them in your prayers. They were hit with a hurricane with 185 mile per hour wind. One hurricane make landfall at 185 mile per hour, the Labor Day hurricane in 1935. And so they are in a really precarious situation. This storm is slowing down. It's likely to continue to administer really significant punishment over the next day. As of 5 o'clock, the storm was about 175 miles east of Palm Beach and moving to the west at 5 miles per hour. We are continuing to make all necessary precautions and urging people out in the state of Florida to make their preparations, heed evacuation orders. Now, this storm has tracked further west slightly, but still further west than we had hoped. I mean, we were hoped that it would air on the eastern side of that track. It's aired a little bit closer to the Florida coast. The storm has slowed down, but we do need it to slow down just a little bit more to ensure when it turns north that it's not impacting directly the Florida coast. And we cannot say that is not a possibility. And so I think it's important that we prepare for this to potentially make landfall here. I held a conference call with members of the Florida legislature, with all the county emergency management directors. The good news is we've worked great with the counties. We're all working together. My wife, the First Lady, put out a public service announcement this afternoon with an important message for people to listen to their local authorities and have an evacuation plan ready if you are ordered to evacuate. Safety comes first. And 185 miles per hour, and her PSA is posted on social media. So we now have, we've seen a significant increase in watches and warnings. A hurricane warning is in effect for Palm Beach, Martin, St. Lucie, Indian River, and Brevard counties, and a storm surge warning is in effect for those counties. A hurricane watch is in effect for Volusia County, and so is a storm surge watch. Now, there will absolutely be additional hurricane warnings and watches all the way up to the Georgia border on the east coast of Florida. So you can pretty much set your clock to that. And you could see tropical storm force winds arriving on Florida's Treasure Coast as early as late tonight. And of course, you have storm surge in places like Jupiter Inlet, forecast to be between 4 and 7 feet. There's a number of evacuation orders that have been issued. Volusia County, Indian River County, Duval County, Nassau County, and St. Johns County. They've all issued new orders today. And of course, Martin, Palm Beach, Brevard, St. Lucie had issued orders already. We've also have a number of counties that have issued voluntary evacuation orders: Osceola, Glades, Hendry, Okeechobee, Highland. If you are in an area that has flooded in prior hurricanes and you're given a voluntary evacuation order, you really need to seriously consider heeding that and evacuating. When the water gets high, there's not a whole lot you can do about that. And given the uncertainty of the storm, it's better to err on the side of safety. The Coast Guard is beginning to lock down some movable bridges to marine traffic, but to be clear, these bridges are still open to motorists. And of course, if there's any changes to that, we'll announce that. Palm Beach International will cease all commercial air service beginning tomorrow, and Orlando Melbourne International plans to close on Monday evening. We're monitoring every road in the state, FDOT. And the traffic has not been abnormal. In fact, I think the non-hurricane related traffic has probably been less than we would typically have on a Labor Day weekend. And we obviously will make accommodations to make sure that those subject to evacuation orders are able to evacuate as efficiently as possible. By tonight, the Florida National Guard will have 4,500 soldiers and airmen activated and ready to respond. They have 15 rotor wing helicopters available. An additional 24 have been offered from regional National Guard locations, and the active Army component has pre-positioned 40 additional helicopters near our state border to respond if needed. And so, we are taking this storm and the potential impacts on Florida very seriously. I hope that we watch a track over the next 24 hours and see that the threat to Florida has diminished, but we are not banking on that at all, and we are preparing for a significant event. And with that, I can take a couple questions.
Governor, can you answer, with all the counties that have done mandatory evacuations of their barrier islands and coastal areas, why are we seeing so little traffic on our major highways?
Well, I think part of it is the traffic overall. This is not the typical Labor Day weekend, given that you had hurricane news going on really for several days now, probably even at the beginning of the week. I think we were starting to look at this. And so I think that probably impacted the natural traffic. And I also think that if you look at, say, Palm Beach County, those evacuation zones A and B, that's a high percentage of seasonal residents. A lot of those folks on that coast are not necessarily staying in Florida in August, in September. And so, but I think that folks have been willing to take steps to prepare. I mean, you saw people lining up for gas. You saw water flying off the shelves. And, people have been through this drill before, so sometimes there can be message fatigue. But I also think at the same time, they understand that if you're prepared, you're going to be much better off if you take those steps. And so we appreciate, I think, having worked with the counties to get in a place where they can protect their residents. And obviously, we appreciate Floridians making preparations.
With the shift going to the west just a little bit, just a little bit less than you guys would have liked, has that prompted you guys to make any changes in how you responded, maybe reallocating resources or repositioning them?
We're always planning. I mean, we never thought that we could just assume it wasn't going to impact Florida. I mean, so that's kind of been how we were. I think what we would have liked to have seen is it slow down more and then take kind of that eastern track within the guidance. because it would have been good to tell people that. But we're certainly not going to tell people that if that's not what's going to happen. So I think the resources have been ready because when you have a storm of this magnitude, I mean, even the track that keeps it off the coast, it ain't like it's 100 miles off the coast. I mean, it gets to be about 25 miles off the coast in some areas. And so that's way too close for comfort, even if that were gospel. So it hasn't changed anything we've done. I think once we knew it was going to be more of an East Coast event, we started having the resources more focused on that. I mean, you remember 3 or 4 days ago, it was not out of the question that you had a southern hit in South Florida coming out to the Gulf of Mexico and then hitting the Panhandle. That obviously would have been a major challenge when you're talking about the most populated part of the state, a state in part of Southwest Florida that had just been hit by Irma 2 years ago, and then the Panhandle potentially where the Michael victims were. And so that was really a problem. Now the resources, we know where the guard's going to be needed. We know where FEs have a better sense of where they're going to need to go when power goes out. And so in that sense, I think that it's made it a more focused effort, which our state this big, that's just, there's logistical challenges sometimes. But I think we kind of know where the issues will be.
Just the search chief made the point about an hour ago during the briefing that there are a fair number of people who are taking vacations out of state, and he expects or would hope that they would extend their vacations by a few days to ease their return to Florida. Will you be calling for that?
Well, look, I think people need to do what's in their best interest. They know kind of, depending on where they live. Obviously, I would not recommend somebody, going to Melbourne tomorrow if they're out of state. I mean, I think you probably would be better off to wait and see how this thing shakes out. And so that's just kind of the way the cookie crumbles. It's. I mean, look, I was planning on my wife and kids. We were going to have fun with our kids this weekend on Labor Day. I know a lot of Floridians have had plans and are having fun elsewhere, and so they just got to make the best decision for their family. But clearly, when you're talking about that area that's within the cone, I think that would be a real problem to just assume that you can come back with no problems.
Forecast seems to have it spin for 2-3 days along our coast. As prepared as you guys are getting, is it going to take more time, be more difficult to get resources down to people that stay behind because it's going to sit there for that long?
So as the storm goes north, you're going to see resources come following the storm. So when we had the meeting with the president and spoke with FEMA, you can see where they have assets pre-positioned. They have them in southern Florida. Obviously, as this thing looks to be tracking, kind of north of Palm Beach, and if it starts moving up the coast that way, they're going to take those southern Florida assets and bring them to follow the track. And I think the same thing is true with the utilities. I mean, they recognize that you can have significant impacts in Palm Beach County and Martin counties, and so. That the storm could still be near St. Augustine, and it may have passed in that area. And obviously, they're going to want to get in there and be able to help those folks who've already experienced the effects. All right. Well, we're going to be monitoring this tonight. We'll have any more updates. We'll put it out for y'all. I mean, we'll be back here doing more briefings tomorrow for sure. I don't know if we're going to do any more tonight, but at the end of the day, please prepare because this is a big boy. Thanks.
And you're listening there to Governor Ron DeSantis as he just wrapped up another news conference. Over the last few days, we've been seeing a lot of the governor kind of filling in Floridians. A few key points here. There have been several increases in the watches and warning along our coastline, from hurricane watches and warnings to storm surges, and also just praying for the folks in the Bahamas that are just getting thrashed right now.
We've been talking about this storm for a week, every day for a week. So a lot of the preparations have been made. I think the last check of the gas stations was that 3 out of every 4 still had gasoline. That's a pretty good sign here in Central Florida that people are taking precautions, and you prepare differently. If you're in Lake or Marion County, you're going to prepare differently than you are in Flagler, Volusia, Brevard. Exactly. So, it depends on where you are, what you're going to get, and we know that you want to know what's going to happen at your house whenever this storm arrives here. We can't tell you just yet, but we're getting a better idea of that. And let's check in with Chief Meteorologist Tony Benoffi.
So as you guys know, we are at the top of every hour now. We are starting to get these updates on Dorian from the National Hurricane Center. And as we take a look now at the 7 o'clock advisory, the information is essentially the same. We have not seen any...
All right, we just obtained information that service will be suspended tomorrow on Brightline. Service will be suspended on Brightline according to a source that published an email alert from Brightline on Facebook.
Right, and this is the cone, and we have the wind filled atop the cone or inside the cone, and the takeaway is how the winds bleed outside of that, and depending on how.
And of course, Orlando Melbourne International Airport will suspend flights as of tomorrow, 12 noon. Broward County Transit will be suspended tomorrow. And of course, the Customer Service Center will be closed tomorrow, Monday.
And that's why they have warnings in effect up there. And then overnight, tomorrow night, Tuesday morning, it's starting to pull away a little bit. And then during the day, it finally lets up. But what are you saying, by afternoon?
Right, exactly.
Better by afternoon.
Better by afternoon, that is for sure.
All right, so here's the cone.
So this is getting...
Here in the purple for Volusia County, we have hurricane watches up, which means in 48 hours you could be experiencing there, depending upon the exact track, hurricane force winds. Storm surge advisories. Here we go. Volusia County, you're under a watch. And then for Brevard County, we have warnings now for storm surge issues there. It looks like it's going to be running about 4 to 7 feet, and we'll have to watch those tide times during the day on Tuesday and again on Wednesday. There is that strong front now to the north and the west. There's that high, which has been steering it to the west. That is beginning to get pushed back a little bit to the east.
And as a reminder, during the next hour, the next bulletin will be published, and we're going to have it for you.
Please pray for us. Please pray for us, everyone. Please pray for us. Me and my baby, everyone that stay in the apartment building, we stuck right here. Please pray for us. I'm asking y'all, please. Pray for us. Pray for Abigail, please. I'm begging y'all. My baby's only 4 months old, please.
This dramatic video of a family trapped with a small child in an apartment complex surrounded by water.
I'm begging y'all, pray for us.
It was so difficult to hear the desperation in her voice. These are just some of the first videos coming out of the Abigail.
And we have Gary Balmont is informing that evacuations ordered along the South Carolina coast. See, we're already seeing South Carolina getting ready for this storm.
Seeking shelter for a brief period of time, and then being able to report again as the eye wall passed through.
Oh my goodness. Okay, we hear people yelling for help. There's a lot of water on this side of the hotel. There's a lot of water here. I don't even know if we... Oh my goodness. Okay, so we're on the other side of the hotel, and right now we even see rushing water. I don't know what... Are they the ones who need help? Are they the ones? They're okay? Okay. Okay, we hear faint screams. I'm walking with hotel staff right now to try to see where this yelling is coming from to make sure these people are okay. Do you see them? Okay, there's so much water on this side of the property. I was not expecting this at all. I really was not.
All of that drama playing out in real time there with Janice reporting live. Again, that was during the eye wall portion of Dorian going through there.
And of course, all the tolls have been suspended on the Florida Turnpike, the Turnpike Golden Gate Spur, the Sawgrass I-75, 595.
They will bring the latest from the report. Calvin, Nicole, I also want to mention that family we saw, that young child, 4 months old, as the mom was pleading for help. We saw some video later of them. They appeared to be fine there as that
This
eye wall
storm,
goes through, but again, after that
it's
second wave going in, there's no, at this
spooky.
point, understanding of what happened after that, if they did get help, if were they able to seek higher ground or a different area. So again, these are all things we're following and we'll continue to bring in here to our news.
Round one, and then there was a round two. Will Mansell Life Force in the video. Port Will, thanks a lot, and we do have an update on Janice. At least we know that she was in a bunker, and we're hoping to hear from her again.
Yeah, and she has been communicating with our ABC station, so we're waiting, and as soon as we do hear from Janice, we will be sure to let you know.
Our team coverage moves now to West Palm Beach and our own Ross Palumbo.
He's live with how residents are getting ready for the storm there. Russ.
Well, Calvin and Nicole, Palm Beach County taking this very seriously now as Dorian gets even closer. And if you're worried about power outages, this should give you some hope. 500 trucks are staged here, 1,000 men and women at the ready, and shelters on the other side of this fairgrounds. They are gearing up as well. Power poles, FP&L trucks, and gas tankers. All staging here, ready to roll, ready to restring lines after any damage Dorian wreaks.
Are you detaching the oxygen?
Rolling in on the other side of the Palm Beach County Fairgrounds, 96-year-old Doris Krokoff.
She's been through Andrew, we've been through Wilma.
As a veteran hurricane survivor, she knew to get to this special needs shelter fast.
I need the oxygen. The people here take such good care of you.
Nearly 500 will ride out the storm here.
It's been pretty organized.
It's the only shelter with medical care and reliable electricity for medical devices.
Absolutely the safest place to be because the storm has been unpredictable.
Miles away in Palm Beach Gardens.
Shelter time.
Regular shelters also filling up as Dorian bears down.
Something new for me, but it's better to be safe than sorry.
Samantha Bryant deciding to come for the first time because of this hurricane's unpredictable path.
We never know where it's going to go.
We're good. We're ready.
Organizers say you should be ready too, with 2 days worth of clothes, bedding, and 3 days worth of food.
Good population right now, very calm, getting settled in. So we're in a good spot.
And Doris Krokoff saying she's in a good spot too after riding out so many hurricanes in shelters before. Now, in just days, she's staring down another milestone.
I'm going to celebrate my birthday here. The whole crowd's going to say happy birthday to me.
You know, that's a good sign that at this point in the preparing, spirits are still high, and this should also give you hope. Once again, 500 FP&L trucks, 1,000 men and women standing at the ready to take care of those power problems as soon as those storms move through here. Also, when it comes to those shelters, you should know that 9 of the 15 shelters here in Palm Beach County are now open. Mandatory evacuations for Zone A, which are low-lying areas, mobile homes, and Zone B, which is everything along the coast and intercoastal. We'll be here all night long to bring you the very latest. For now, though, that's the very latest live from West Palm Beach. Calvin and Nicole, back to you.
And Ross, we do want to emphasize that Palm Beach International has been shut down as a result of this pending storm here. And Ross, we also heard from officials who said that they do not want people to try to travel north to get away from the storm.
No, that's absolutely right. That is the wrong direction to go. It is way too late to do that. So the evacuation orders are, if you're in Zone A or in Zone B, to get to a shelter, or now just hunker down at home, Calvin. That is by far the safest thing to do at this point.
Our Ross Palumbo Live Force in West Palm Beach. Ross will be checking back in with you through the course of the night. Thanks a lot.
And now to the Palm Beaches and the Treasure Coast. That's where Dorian poses a serious threat to Florida right now.
Local 10 News reporter Andrew Perez is in Stewart right now with the preparations there.
Well, evacuations are well underway right now. It's a lengthy process, as you can understand. We actually had to be evacuated as well. Our hotel shut down. We had to leave because we were on a barrier island. It was a mandatory evacuation. So we spent so much time just calling hotel to hotel to see who could take us. All of them said the same thing. Their employees weren't going to be around when this storm came closer to Florida. So finally, we made it from Jupiter all the way up to Stewart, where we finally found a place. Seeing scenes like this, though, you've got cars kind of bunched up to protect businesses, to protect homes also. And then you've got these boards all the way down this shopping center. This has been a storm that people are taking seriously because it's been a little bit unpredictable. It's very powerful, very large, very scary. So the name of the game right now, today, in this part of the state, is evacuation. Governor Ron DeSantis, to help with all of that Sunday, he had the tolls suspended on several Florida highways. He stated all of this during a news conference, kind of discussing the preps for Dorian. Even Palm Beach International Airport will cease all commercial air service starting tomorrow. Locals here say they've been prepared for several days, and they're just waiting at this point to see what this storm will do.
Yesterday it was like, oh, we're not going to get hit. And then today we're going to get hit. So you would think everybody would be panicking and running out the door, but
It's because you guys know how to prepare.
we were over prepared. We have a cement block house. We have, triple pane hurricane windows. We should be all right. And we're at a high enough elevation. We're not in evacuation zone A or B.
So for those choosing not to evacuate to a shelter, authorities are asking them to please evacuate miles, not hundreds of miles away. Keep in mind, most of Palm Beach County is not being evacuated, just those low-lying areas, those areas very, very prone to flooding, those areas on the beach, the barrier islands near the water, those are all areas that are being evacuated right now. Nobody here is taking this storm very lightly. They say they've been prepared for days, and they will just remain vigilant and watch. That's the latest here in Stewart. I'm Andrew Perez, Local 10 News.
We also want to let you know today, too, that both Broward and Miami-Dade County schools will be closed on Tuesday. Schools were already closed for tomorrow due to the Labor Day holiday, but now students will not return to classes until Wednesday at the latest.
Our team coverage moves now to Terrell Fournay in Boynton Beach, showing us how those who live in mobile homes are getting ready for the storm. Terrell.
Well, here in Boynton Beach, it is just a little breezy this evening, and I want to stress just a little, nothing major at this point. And check out behind me, you can even tell by the waves that are coming up on the coastline. There are a lot of waves pulling in, and just above it, because there was a small rain shower that pushed in, you even see this rainbow above. This is all next to a mobile home community, Briny Breeze, which has been evacuated. This area is now under a mandatory evacuation order, and the people here have been told to leave.
You are within a mandatory evacuation area.
Police tonight making the rounds in Briny Breezes to ensure people are taking this storm seriously. And as the ocean front along Boynton Beach remains calm and pristine, the residents who live in the neighboring mobile home community are admittedly nervous.
It's sad to think it could be gone, but what is Mother Nature? We can't do anything about it.
Ann Kimlika and her daughter are pulling out precious items from their home just in case Dorian destroys their property. The area is under a mandatory evacuation order.
It doesn't say it, but my father died here, and so it's very sentimental for all of us.
Briny Breezes and its fragile structures have withstood the test of time. It's been here for decades, despite several scares caused by storms of the past. Today, families have placed shutters on windows and doors on most of the homes here before loading up their cars with essentials to drive into a safe zone.
Moderately concerned. From what we can understand, it's possible to take the roof off. We're hoping not much more than that. So we're a bit concerned, but trying to not panic until we're told we should panic.
Because of the strong storm, Palm Beach County officials ordered the evacuations for mobile homes and homes in low-lying areas. Also, properties in surge-prone areas along the Intracoastal from south of the Jupiter Inlet to the Broward County line. A trio of unfortunate designations that all fit Briny Breezes.
I just wonder if it's the last time we'll ever see this place the way it is. We love this place.
And a live look now at the ocean here in Boynton Beach, where you can tell that a lot of surfers are taking advantage of the waves and the wind. This is a public beach, so the people here are not tied to the mobile home community. Nonetheless, that neighboring mobile home community underneath, these ominous clouds that just let down a very small rain shower, the folks have been told to leave. And from what we can tell, most of the people that we have encountered are indeed leaving. There are some people, a very small amount, who decided not to leave tonight but have plans to do so first thing in the morning. So it's very quiet throughout here, and it's very hard to find a mobile home that has not been shuttered. I'll send it back to you, Calvin and Nicole.
And we hope that those that are in the water leave once the weather starts to get a little bit worse. Thank you, Terrell.
And now for a look at how Dorian is impacting Broward County.
Local 10 News reporter Sanella Sabovic is live in Pompano Beach with the preparations that are underway right now. Sanella.
Greetings, Calvin and Nicole. From a breezy Pompano Beach throughout the course of the day, we have seen these wind gusts pick up, and we had a chance to visit major beaches along the Broward County coastline because we know that the county is under a tropical storm watch. So we really wanted to see how people were preparing, and throughout our travels throughout the course of the day, we have seen some buildings and businesses being boarded up, but nothing too crazy. The atmosphere has been relaxed. We've spoken to several beachgoers, and they're really trying to enjoy the beautiful weather before we really start to get the wind and rain in the next coming days. Beachgoers enjoying a beautiful but breezy day here in Deerfield Beach.
We were boogie boarding, we were doing a little body surfing. We didn't go fishing, so my grandson was a little bit unhappy, but we may even sneak out. We got our sabiki rod, and I got all this stuff, so we had a great time.
Taking in the sun and surf, also packing restaurants.
Just enjoying the nice weather, the calm before the storm.
The area is under a tropical storm watch, and some businesses have removed awnings, started boarding up, and placing sandbags near first-floor entryways. Quieter scenes in Pompano Beach, the remodeled pier still not open to the public, and along Fort Lauderdale Beach, less people, but the same amount of caution. Some businesses at Beach Place along A1A have boarded up their oceanfront windows in preparation for tropical storm force winds. Visitors remaining optimistic, but also preparing to leave should the weather get worse than expected.
Probably go to the West Coast for the next few days just to kind of stay out of the reach of the storm. Most people are planning for the worst and hoping for the best, which is what we're doing.
Most people definitely hoping for the best, and here the beach is pretty quiet in Pompano Beach, just a lot more foot traffic, but you're also looking at the Pompano Pier there. It has been under construction for some time, set to reopen to the public next month. It does remain sealed off at the moment as neighboring buildings are under construction, and we did get a chance to check out that part of the beach. All those materials certainly secured ahead of time before those tropical storm force winds do push through the area. So again, people remaining optimistic, continuing on with their weekend plans, but also being prepared ahead of time for whatever may come. That is the latest here from Pompano Beach. Calvin and Nicole, I'll send it back to you.
Hoping for the best, preparing for the worst. Sanella, thank you.
Well, as the storm approaches, some wildlife centers are making sure that their animals are safe and secure.
Local 10 News reporter Roy Ramos is at Butterfly World in Coconut Creek with that story.
We are standing in one of 3 aviaries here at Butterfly World, and you can see employees hard at work now capturing the last bit of butterflies here in the facility. More than 20,000 butterflies, and get this, they have to catch each and every one of them by hand. They're getting those butterflies, placing them into containers like this, and then they'll take them inside so they're not exposed to high winds and rain as Hurricane Dorian moves closer and closer to the Sunshine State.
If there's any chance that this storm goes directly west, if we were to have hurricane force winds, it would be very damaging to the butterflies. They really can't abide by too much wind, particularly. They're okay in the rain, but wind can be very damaging. And so we just made the decision to bring them all inside to keep them safe and get that done, just in case.
You can see the dozens of enclosures that they have brought inside, the butterflies separated by species, but employees tell me that for every hour that passes, it is critical. These butterflies are not exposed to sunlight, they are not exposed to humidity, and they will not feed if they are in these enclosures. So employees here tell me that they are watching Hurricane Dorian very closely so that they can know when exactly it is they can release these butterflies back into the aviaries where they are safe. Here in Coconut Creek, Roy Ramos, Local 10 News.
It's about keeping everyone and everything safe. Thank you, Roy.
Well, team coverage moving down to Plantation. The Broward County Mayor spoke from the Emergency Operations Center.
And Michael Putney has that story. Michael.
Nicole and Calvin, Broward County is under the watchful eye of its EOC tonight. They are up and running, fully staffed, open 24/7, and ready to respond to whatever Hurricane Dorian should throw at Broward. A short time ago, we got briefed by Broward Mayor Mark Bogan.
On Tuesday, I was informed by the school superintendent, Robert Runcie, that the schools will be closed on Tuesday. Second, I was informed by our Chief Judge, Jack Tudor, that the courthouse will be closed again on Tuesday. Third is for those people that use our bus service. On Monday, There will be no regularly scheduled bus service. We will determine Tuesday as we get more information on the storm. Fourth, even though we are operating 24 hours a day here at the Emergency Operations Center, all other government buildings, including libraries and parks, will be closed on Tuesday. 5, we have currently today at 2 o'clock, we have opened 4 special needs shelters. Now, these are for residents who have already registered with the county. If you have special needs and you have not registered, please call 311 to register.
Broward County has more than 1,100 residents who have signed up for special needs shelters, plus 250 kids have signed up. And right now, Broward County health officials are calling the people who have registered and asking, do you want to be taken to one of these shelters? There are 3 shelters for adults, 1 shelter for kids. There are no shelters open for the general population here in Broward. Calvin and Nicole will send it back to you.
Okay, Michael Putney from the EOC in Broward County.
Well, flooding is still a top concern in Miami Beach as Dorian gets closer.
The city is still handing out sandbags for those who need them. Let's go to Local 10 News reporter Hatzavella, live in Miami Beach with that story for us. Hatzel.
Calvin, Nicole, remember, sandbagging is crucial here in Miami Beach because when you mix king tides and a big storm surge, you might get a huge problem. So this is what's happening here on the beach at this hour. Quite a neat new type of equipment they're using. To the right, you can see that backhoe. What it does is it allows folks working here from Public Works to put in 20 different bags. Then they pick up the sand and deliver the bags over to the left. And you can see in this video, lots of folks, a steady stream of people picking up bags throughout this afternoon. We talked to the mayor, Dan Gilbert here, who told us they've been open almost all day today. They are expecting to go through 10 this evening. He said this is important because of the issue of flooding, king tides, and a storm surge here in Miami Beach. Here we also talked to a resident about the importance of getting ready.
All right, it's 7:24. Let's read the 7 o'clock summary from the National Hurricane Center in Miami. And it says catastrophic Category 5 Dorian continues to batter the Cabos, approaching eastern end of Grand Bahama. This is a life-threatening situation. Residents in the Cabos should continue to stay in their shelters as eastern eye wall of Dorian remains over the area. Residents in eastern Grand Bahama will begin to experience the western eye wall soon. Hazard: wind gusts of over 220 miles per hour.
We were with you every step of the way, Hatzel. Thank you so much.
You heard it, 220 miles per hour. Storm surge between 18 and 20 feet above normal tide level higher, destructive waves. These hazards will cause extreme destruction in affected areas and will continue for several hours. In the summary of 7 o'clock, it is latitude 26.6 north, longitude 77.6, about 70 miles east of Freeport, Grand Bahama Island, about 150 miles on the east of West Palm Beach. So it is right now, let's say halfway between Freeport and West Palm Beach. Wind system 185 miles per hour. Present movement is west of 5. Minimum central pressure is 910 millibars. So let's continue with local 10.
Winds. Now, As far as
South
when we
Florida.
expect those winds to ramp up, so we'll call it somewhat breezy now. Breeze is picking up tonight into tomorrow. But then notice as we're getting into Monday evening and heading toward overnight early Tuesday, that's when we anticipate the winds to peak as Dorian is at its closest approach. So that's when we're going to prepare to feel the most wind energy. And this forecast
We have a little bit of difficulty in the feed.
model showing that Fort Lauderdale will primarily be in northwest winds. So in general, northwest or west-northwest winds for Miami-Dade and Broward around that time frame. Hurricane Dorian, Category 5 hurricane. It is churning right off our shore, so to speak, right over the northwest Bahamas. And look at where it's heading. Check this out. This is the Doppler radar imagery, and it captures the eye and that eye wall. It is crawling westward at 5 miles per hour, heading straight for Grand Bahama. So it looks as though the next stop in its path is going to be Sweeting Cay, an area that gets pounded. Meantime, it's starting that back edge of the eye wall starting to push away from Abaco Island. But still, it is just hurling a lot, not only at the areas that have seen and will see the eye wall, but in terms of those rain bands gusting around it. So there's Grand Bahama, there is Freeport, so more areas are in the path of this. We're going to have some of these rain bands tossed in our direction moving into tomorrow as Dorian gets closer, likewise on Tuesday as well. More on the forecast over the next several hours.
Okay, Betty, thank you.
And right now we're going to join the game. Local 10 News will be back at halftime.
You don't want to miss, and you will not miss a minute of that game. We'll have a special edition of Local 10 News coming your way and continuous updates on local10.com.
So what we're gonna do for now is let's take let's say a small break, and we'll be on Twitter giving that 8 o'clock newscast. That 8 o'clock let's say latest status. So thank you for joining us, and see you later.